What's going on, guys? So today's video is going to focus about covering your firewood. Now, traditionally, one of the most common, easy, practical ways to cover your firewood is simply with a tarp. However, if you tarp your firewood directly, or if you put your tarp directly on top of your firewood, what's going to happen is over time the wind's going to blow and the tarp's going to rub on your firewood, and you're going to get little holes like that, and over time those holes are going to get bigger, you're going to get more holes, and eventually your tarp's going to be worthless and you're going to have to go out and purchase another one, which we strive not to do. We strive to buy one tarp and just have it last forever, but you know, that never really happens. But I've started to come up with a system, or a creation behind me that I'd like to share with you that's really helped save the life of my tarps. It still has definitely some room for improvement, and I do need to add more onto it, but I think it's a pretty unique and effective basic system that didn't cost me any extra money, and I'd like to share it with you. So yeah, here's my wood pile. Forget how many cords I'm up to. I'm probably up to around three or four cords. You know, they're not the exact measurements, but yeah, what I've come up with here is something that I've kind of copied off of the Indian design of the teepee. So what I did on either side in the center of my pile, I did this tri-post teepee thing. And how you create these is pretty simple. You just find a couple pieces of pretty strong straight limbs or trees or whatever you want to use. You stand them up straight, and when they're up straight, a little bit higher than the height of the bar you'd like to drop across them, you tie a string around there a couple times and you tie a taut. I did that with that white line right there. Then you do the same thing on the other side and space out the legs, and you create a very strong structure. Actually, when I created this thing, before I threw the tarp on top of it, I was actually sitting down mid-span with this bar right here, and it was supporting my weight just fine, which I think that's pretty awesome if it's just a couple sticks and some string that's holding me up. You know, I weigh, geez, what do I weigh? Around 140 right now? Something like that, maybe 135. But yeah, this is pretty cool, and the idea behind it is, one, you create a high point so that way any water will run off, and additionally the tarp isn't rubbing back and forth, it just sits on top there. And additionally, what I've done here is, if you look at that orange line right there, I've secured the center of the tarp with two eyelets at the apex of this mechanism, so that way the tarp won't slide back and forth. It's just secure right there. So we prevented any rubbing up high. And I've also started to work on the other side. I really would like to build 6 of these in total. So you'd have 3 on either side, and you'd have a center bar kind of going across on that side and that side. So basically you have 3 of these systems, so there's no rubbing whatsoever. However, I got kind of lazy. I did the top one and I didn't get around to doing this side yet. But what I have done that has worked so far, you could also do something like this. This is just temporary for now. It's just a couple 2x4s sandwiched together, and I'm using this piece of wood and that piece of wood to kind of hold it up. And then I use these drawstrings to keep it taut. If you look on this side, I've had this tarp out for probably around 3 months now, and there's no holes on this side. That's because nothing is rubbing, and that's the key to saving your tarps. However, when we started this video, if you notice on the other side, I do have maybe 1 or 2 small holes that are starting to appear. Actually, I have a couple. Alright. So yeah, that's one of my problems. I need to do a better job at securing this side, so I only have 1 little hole so far. So this is my, I'd like to call it, ingenious, inventive TP tarp system. Very effective at saving the life of your tarps and hopefully keeping your firewood drier. And one other thing I'd also like to mention, if you're in a climate that gets snow, if you collect snow on this tarp, or let me backtrack a second. If you were to do it the traditional method, where you just have a tarp resting directly on top of your wood and you get snow on top of that tarp, it's a big pain because you have to clean off the snow, or you could go underneath it, but then you're getting snow on you. With this system, the snow will either deflect off the tarp or it'll sit up there, and you can actually go underneath the tarp and take your firewood out without having to mess with any of the snow on top of the tarp, although you should probably knock it off. So hopefully that made sense. Hopefully most of you found this video useful or interesting. If you like this video, sincerely appreciate a thumbs up. And if you like this channel, hey, subscribe. We're always trying to do interesting and creative things. So, thanks for watching.